Hey guys, welcome to episode 5 of the Awesome Blossom Knits podcast. My name is Lauren and I'm coming to you from my home in Iwakuni, Japan today. And thank you so much for joining me. It has been a minute since I last recorded. If you follow me on Instagram, you might know that I've been in the States for the last few weeks. Unfortunately, my father-in-law passed away a few weeks ago. So we took an unexpected trip back to Texas to be there for the funeral and all of that. So that's where I've been. I did get back to Japan this last weekend, but I've just been trying to get over jet lag and get back into a normal schedule here. So I apologize if this episode's a little bit off. And I don't have a lot of knitting to share either. Even though I've been gone for a while, I haven't gotten a ton of stuff done. I only took 2 projects with me, and that's all I've worked on, basically, since we last talked. So I did have one sort of administrative bit, I guess. Since I last recorded, I have started a new Instagram account. I have always been on Instagram as LaurenAlia. And I post just everything under that, including my knitting. But a few weeks ago, I decided to separate it out and have an Instagram account specifically for knitting, and that is Awesome Blossom Knits. Instead of posting it all in with all of my other kind of random posts. So I will put both of my Instagram names in the description box below, and you can follow either one or both, whatever you want. My, I guess, personal Instagram account is mostly just pictures of places I go around Japan, pictures of my kid, my dog, pretty flowers, sushi I eat for lunch, whatever. And then the other one will be all knitting and yarn content. So, yeah. I do have one finished object today. That is going to be these socks. This pattern is the Vanilla Latte socks by Virginia Rose Jeans, and I just finished the heels on these yesterday, so they haven't actually been blocked yet, but close enough. We'll call it done. They're 64 stitch socks on size 1.5 needles, and the yarn is Patons Kroy in the Mean Green Stripes colorway. As I said, I did the afterthought heels yesterday, and I used the Kirby Werby tutorial on YouTube. That's how I do my afterthought heels. I've only done them a few times before, but I really like that method. It doesn't leave any kind of gap on either side, nothing to sew up when you're done, just nice and neat. I'll try to remember to put a link to that in the description below, but I think if you just search for afterthought heel tutorial, it's pretty easy to find. So when I knit these, I knit the first sock and then I count the rows to get the second one to be the same size. And I triple counted, I swear, but I still ended up with the second sock being like a lot further in the repeat and like physically about an inch longer than the first one when I counted the rows. So I think my gauge must have changed from the first sock to the second. So I ended up ripping back the second one and just, instead of counting and doing the same number of rows, just starting the toe at the same point in the striping pattern. And that worked. I have socks that are actually the same size now, instead of one being an inch longer. But one of them is like probably 6 to 10 rows shorter than the other one, like the physical number of rows. And then went back and put the afterthought heel in halfway through this gray stripe, and I really like how it came out. yeah, I love an afterthought heel in the self-striping yarn. I think that's such a cool like bullseye effect, and I'm really glad I got to use the striping yarn in the heel instead of having to do a contrast heel. When I started these socks, I thought that I was going to have to use a contrast color for heels and maybe also the toes, and I had got this out thinking this was going to be my contrast color, but I ended up not needing it. And the reason that I was sure that I was going to need a contrast color is because of these other socks that I knit maybe a year or a year and a half ago. I'm not sure exactly when I knit these, but these are socks that I knit for myself out of Patons Kroy. And I knit them toe up, and you can see that the cuff is really short and the socks are not quite as long as, you know, the leg of the sock isn't quite as long as the toe. Like, I normally try to make my socks the same length. I don't really know why. I just like them to be exactly the same length, the foot and the leg. But I didn't have enough yarn. I knit until I was running out of yarn until, you know, and then that's when I bound off. So that's why the cuffs are so short on these. And I had two 50-gram balls with these and two 50-gram balls with these. No leftovers, you know, very little scraps left over. Didn't quite get full-length socks. But these green ones that I just knit, I have a ton of leftover yarn. Like all of this, plus all these little scraps from, you know, pulling out the yarn to get to the right point in the repeat to make them match. So I'm not really sure what happened there. I mean, I don't know if a difference in gauge is enough to explain that much of a change, but or if there was actually like less yardage in the yarn that I knit the rainbow socks out of. Say rainbow socks. I think it's called Meadow Stripes is the colorway I knit these out of. I don't know, but either way, I'm really glad that I had enough to finish these without having to use a contrast color. I'm really happy with how they came out. So those are going to be a gift for my husband, probably Christmas gift. Let's see. I think that's all I have to say about those. So the only other project I have to share is a work in progress, but I do have the first one done, so it's a half-finished project. Here's the second one. I'm actually getting close to the point where I can put the toe in on this one. This pattern is called the June Socks, and it's a pattern by Jenn Emerson. And I don't think I had started these yet. The last time I recorded, I maybe talked about I was going to cast them on and showed you the yarn. Yeah, there's the first one. So the yarn is my own hand-dyed yarn, so Awesome Blossom Knits yarns. The pink speckled is called Hibiscus, and the gray is the Perfect Gray, I think is what I named it. It's just a nice medium kind of tonal gray. And I think they look really nice together. I like the pattern a lot. It is pretty slow going though. There's cabling every few rounds, so it's taken me a while to get through it. It's not as fast as some other patterns, but I think they're really beautiful, so it's worth it. When I started them, I was using a cable needle to do the cables, but partway down the leg of the first sock, I switched to doing the cables without a cable needle, and that has sped it up quite a bit. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that if you knit these, is looking up, if you don't already know how to do it, looking up a tutorial for cabling without a cable needle and using that method. I can't remember which tutorial I used. I think I just Googled it and used the first picture tutorial that came up. The other thing I'm doing on these is, in an effort to have neater ribbing, I tried this trick I found online or read about online to do the pearls, the first pearl after, like when you switch from a knit to a pearl, doing it Eastern style, which is where you knit through the back leg of the stitch, but you also wrap the yarn the other way around the needle from what you normally do for a pearl stitch. So wrapping the yarn the opposite way and knitting through the back leg of the stitch kind of cancel each other out, so you don't get twisted stitches. It's just a normal pearl stitch, but it's supposed to use less yarn that way and give you a tighter stitch and thus make your ribbing look neater. I'm not really sure if it actually makes a difference or not. This is 1x1 ribbing at the top, and I did the Eastern style purling on the whole thing, so the ribbing and you know, the cabling too. I don't do a lot of 1x1 ribbing. Normally I do 2x2, but this pattern called for 1x1, and I decided to just do the 1x1 ribbing because I thought 2x2 wouldn't fit with the cable pattern well. So since I don't do 1x1 ribbing very often, I don't really have anything to compare this to say whether it's neater or not. But that's a thing I'm doing. This pattern is written for toe up socks, but I did knit them cuff down with a German twisted cast on, just because that's what I felt like doing. So yeah, June socks by Jenn Emerson. I love them. Can't wait for this one to be done. Yeah. So that's it. That's all the knitting that I have to show this week. I do still have my sweater, my peridot cardigan on the needles. I have not worked on that at all since I went out of town. So that's one of my goals for the next this coming week, is to put some work into my sweater and get the June socks off the needles and cast on some new things. So as far as yarn dyeing, I do have a couple new colorways that I dyed before I went out of town. One of them is still hanging on the drying rack waiting for me to reskein it. I just haven't gotten around to it. I haven't taken pictures and listed them in my Etsy shop yet, so I'm going to hold off on showing you those today. I'll show them next time I record. And yeah, my Etsy shop is open again though. I did reopen it yesterday, I think. So it had been closed while I was out of town, obviously, but it's reopened now. I have, you know, a bunch of sock yarn and some sock project bags, if that is your jam. I'll put a link down in the description box. And I think that's all I got for you today, guys. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you next time, and have a good week. Bye.